Am I the asshole for telling my sister her 4 kids are her plus one? I'm 30 male in the midst of planning a wedding and deciding everything regarding the guest list. We have a hard cap of people allowed given the venue's small size. We can only have 105 people. Anything after that would not be allowed due to fire codes and venue policy. I have an older sister, Mia, whose life is a bit of a mess right now. She and her latest ex-partner and dad of one of her kids broke up in the last 6 months. She has 4 kids and they are all living at my parents' house for the time being. We opted not to have a child-free wedding after there has been so much drama about it, so Mia's 4 kids, between 4 and 11, will be at our wedding. She recently got her invite and stated her name and her 4 kids' names. She then called me and said, I assume as an adult I also get a plus one? We told her no, she's not in a serious relationship and she and her kids are already about 5% of our total guest list. Our caterer also doesn't charge less for kids, so we're paying about $400 for those 4 kids to be there. We don't want to pay another $100 for some random that she'd bring. She's not dating anyone, but said she could easily find a date or bring a friend to have someone to dance with. We told her she has 4 kids there, and that should be more than enough instead of having a plus one. My dad is on my side and is tired of her taking up the house. My mom is a little more sympathetic, saying I should allow her to have a plus one because that's what you do for adults. Spending $600 on just my sister, her kids, and a date when she's not seeing anyone seriously just seems ridiculous to me, though. She is pretty ticked off, though. Am I the asshole here?
That's a lot of money.
I might have an unpopular opinion. You go first. That is a lot of money.
Yeah, that's my first reaction. That's like a ton of money to be putting out for your sister, which, like, I don't know their financial situation, so
yeah,
I don't know. Like, I like to think I would spend whatever I need to on my siblings because they're my family and I love them, but I don't know. That's a lot of money. And it's like, it's tough that it sounds like they wanted a child-free wedding to start, and then there was like drama with it because she has 4 kids, and so now they're accommodating her in that way, like letting her kids come. So to now also be making this like next request again that isn't necessarily just like a cheap thing for them to do, that's a tough situation.
I think that OP is looking at this wrong, because if it's not a child-free wedding, your sister isn't really receiving any sort of privilege or extra care to make her more comfortable or whatever. Because it's not a child-free wedding, there's no expectation that children that you're close with wouldn't be invited. So OP and his spouse made that decision. So then you shouldn't be like putting that sort of monetary value on it and being like, well, I'm already spending $600 for you. And it's like, if you're going to have a wedding and spend that much money, you just need to accept that it's going to cost $100 for everyone that's going to attend. That's just how weddings work. I would get it if they decided to have a child-free wedding and then the sister was like, can I please just bring my kids? If OP said to his sister, look, we can't afford to have a ton of people there, so I'm going to offer you either your kids go or a plus one goes, but we really can't afford to have all of them go. That would be one thing. Mm-hmm. But they're not having a child-free wedding. So OP's kids are their nieces and nephews. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that there's anything weird about the kids being invited and them needing to pay for the kids to be there. Like, that just seems pretty standard to me. I feel like I might not be explaining this in the best way, but I feel like the OP almost has like this tinge of resentment towards the sister.
Yeah.
And is like, oh, you have so many freaking kids, like, and now I have to pay for all of them. And it's like, yeah, that's how it works when you invite a family to your wedding. And if you didn't want to pay for the kids, you shouldn't have invited them. And I kind of feel like as an adult, this is where the plus one thing comes in. Because on one hand, you can be like, it's your wedding. You can offer or not offer plus ones to whoever you want, and that's your right. But on the other hand, it's like when you're inviting adults to your wedding and it's people you really care about, if them having a plus one would make them the most comfortable and allow them to have the best time, is that something you should do? I feel like you could argue yes.
Yeah.
And then OP's dad being on his side, I feel like is just because he's just a little bit annoyed at his daughter. And he's like, all right, we're giving you so much. We're giving you the free house. Like, we're giving you all of this. You can have one night without a plus one. That's a good point too. Like, I don't know.
Well, do you think because didn't it sound like they want a child-free wedding, but
yeah, I
they
guess.
couldn't do it because there was drama, whatever that means?
I feel like they should have stated that beforehand, though, and been like, we're accommodating you on the kids.
Yeah.
But we can't handle accommodating you on the kids and the +1.
Right.
If you want a +1, bring a +1, but then the kids can't come.
Yeah.
And they can use the reasoning of the venue being small and maybe the couple not having an unlimited budget. They could give the sister the choice.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because even, like, if money isn't an issue, there's still a guest limit.
Right.
And, like, my sister just got married a few years ago. We were still in the COVID era. They had their full guest list and they had to cut it down so much. And they actually had to cut it down pre-COVID because they couldn't fit everyone in the venue. And then they had to cut it down even more because of new, like, COVID rules. So it's also kind of tough because it's like, if you're excluding like your own friends, it's hard to give people a +1. And if they're not seeing, they don't know the person that well, if they're not seeing anyone seriously, like you don't know them that well, and like you're like cutting like your, I don't know, like maybe like your college friends or something to like your B list, but then you're giving like someone else like a +1 you don't even know. Like that's tough too.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's hard. That they would be opening like 5 spots for the sister. I get it, like the kids and her should be a package deal though because they're family. Like I understand that. And since it's not a child-free wedding, like that should just be a given that they're all going. But yeah, just like they said, it's a small venue. So it's kind of tough because like they said that's 5% of their guest list right there.
Right. That is a good point of if they have to cut other people. But I feel like just have a conversation then.
Yeah.
And tell them that.
Yeah.
And be like, we obviously have a small venue and we want friends to be there, so I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess he's not an asshole, but I could see where the sister was coming from.
Yeah.
And I almost feel like the reasoning shouldn't be like, oh, we have to pay $400 for the 4 kids and then $100 for her and then $100 for the extra person. Like the only argument should be, I don't feel like paying $100 for someone I don't know. I feel like the cost of the kids becomes irrelevant once you decide to have a wedding that's not child-free.
Yeah, that's true.
So I feel like his reasoning was just what was making me question it.
Yeah.
But I get that when you don't have a big venue, not everyone can have a +1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, I don't think he's an asshole.
Yeah.
After examining all the evidence. But I do think the $400 with the kids and then another $100 for the sister, it's like, that's standard. Don't use that as evidence. Just use the extra 100 and the extra seat at the venue as your evidence or your reasoning.
Yeah.
The main vote was not the asshole, so we agree with them.
Not the asshole.